Hello, and welcome to the first BKTV Live of the 2022-23 school year. Today is October 6th, 2022. I'm Caden Foster.
And I'm Trent Kaczynski. We've missed bringing you the show, but we are back and ready to show off our top quality and entertaining segments every week.
On today's show, we have coverage of Blues, Brews, and Barbecue, Kevin Hines, and a new live segment called Stuff That Matters.
Also on today's show, we have stories on Red's hot dogs and Mrs. Stroud's alpacas. But before we get started, let's roll the new 2022-23 intro made by Chris Orr. Take it away.
Boy, does it feel great to be back, broadcasting out to you all. BKTV has a lot in store for this year. You all just wait and see the informative and entertaining stories we have in the works.
That's right. I'm excited to show you all what we have coming soon. To start us off the show, we have Jack and Jared, who bring us an insightful behind the scenes of Farmington Annual Blues, Brews, and Barbecue.
What is up, Farmington High School? Today, I am in downtown Farmington, and where normally it's very quiet. However, that all changes when the Blues, Brews, and Barbecue event occurs down in this spot. Paul Grindstaff, who runs the event, gives insight on Blues, Brews, and Barbecue.
Yeah, so this is really formed by Discover Farmington, which is our local tourism board, and there's some money whenever there's a hotel tax. If someone rents a hotel room in our community, that it helps fund this board. And the goal of this is to bring people to the community and let them see what Farmington has to offer. And so we just continue to put it on and hope that people show up. Yep, we had some people that want to do a bratwurst contest downtown, and I've had some experience with barbecue contests, and some other people in the group thought it'd be a really good idea to see, how big we could get this, and so we decided to hire some bands and get a stage and invite some food trucks, and we held our first barbecue contest in 2018, and about 25 teams or so showed up, and we've just been able to grow it from there. Yeah, well, we obviously learn something or many things every year on how we can improve. And the first year, I think we started out with 4 or 5 bands, and we had some barbecue teams and we had a few food trucks, and we realized that a lot of people actually showed up, and all of our food vendors sold out before dinner on Saturday. So we've just learned to hire enough food and put enough fun things out there for the kids, and everyone just has a great time. Yeah, especially for like the barbecue teams or the steak teams. So they're competing for kind of a year-end big award, kind of a championship award. So a lot of these guys are trying to accumulate points every contest. And so they drive all over the country and hit as many contests as they can to accumulate points. And then at the end of the year, they'll have a winner that wins some pretty big money prizes.
This is Jack Tony reporting for BKTV Live.
Blues, Brews, and Barbecue was certainly a fun time this year. The Discover Farmington Tourism Board certainly does a great job with it every year.
Our next story concerns serious topics including mental health and suicide awareness. If that is an issue for you, we invite you to wait for the completion of the story in just over 5 minutes.
Caleb Truman and Richard Skinner spoke with Kevin Hines after our assembly to get more info on his story.
What is up, FHS? My name is Caleb Truman. I'm here with Kevin Hines today. So, what made you decide to start traveling around and telling people?
It happened very reluctantly. I was in my first psych ward because after my jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, my physical recovery, I ended up going into a psychiatric unit for the first time. And there was a Franciscan friar, or what's known as the chaplain of the hospital, and he comes to my room and he walks in and he says, "Hey kid, what are you in for?" And he's all happy and jovial, and I was like, "Well, brother, I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge." He didn't believe me. He thought I was delusional. I said, "No, brother, that's what happened. That's why the back brace, that's why the cane." And I was putting it on right there. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so silly. Let's pray." He starts praying with me. And he goes, "Kid, when you get better, you ought to talk about this." And I looked at him and I said, "About what to who?" I didn't understand what he meant. Every day, Brother George Cherry would come in. Every day he would say, "Kid, when you get better, you ought to talk about this," when he left. On the final day of my last day of the stay in the psych ward, a month in, my dad's kind of helping me hobble down the walkway there of the psych ward. Brother George Cherry comes out and he goes, "Kid, I expect you'll talk about this." Well, I get out of the hospital and I go to church with my dad, church I grew up in, and the priest there comes out after the service and says, "Kevin, how would you like to come and talk to our 7th and 8th grade class about your experience this Good Friday?" And I said, Father, I don't have a speech and I wouldn't know what to say. I go on Good Friday and I deliver that speech I told you about. And I didn't think it was going to help a soul. When I got to the last of the 17 pages that I dropped to the floor while shaking and crying, holding my cane with my back brace, I thought, what a waste of time for everybody involved. And then 8 hands go up. And they were all intuitive, empowering, important, and moving questions. And I knew I'd made an impact. When I got to my dad's house, Monsignor Herman called me, I think 2 weeks later. And he says, "Kevin, I'd like you to come to the rectory. I've got something for you." So I huck up 2 miles. My dad's at work. So I'm on my back brace and my cane, excruciating back pain, after surgery, hucking up this huge hill. And I get to the rectory, and Monsignor Herman looks at me and he hands me a manila envelope. And he says, "Open it." I open it, and there's 120 letters from 120 kids. Have an assembly, mandate that they write letters to the speaker who's talked about what they're going through if they're under 18, screen the letters, and you'll know who's in trouble. We screened those letters, the teacher screened those letters. 6 of the kids were actively suicidal. We found it in their letters. We got them the help they need. They're alive today. 2 of them work in the mental health field. So we knew we made an impact. My dad saw the letters. He said, "Kevin, we have to do this however, wherever, and whenever possible," and we never stopped. Hundreds of thousands of people in 22 years of doing this work have written to me and said this story saved or changed their life. I don't own that, though. I don't save or change lives. I'm a conduit. I'm like a messenger. I give a word. People go home. They do the work. They save and change their own life. It's cause and effect, right? So I give a message that connects to people. They go home and they change their lives. Today is not tomorrow. Just because you're in a world of pain today doesn't mean you don't get to have that beautiful tomorrow. But you have to be here to get there in the first place. You know, there's so many valuable things that would have never happened. So you got to be here to get there in the first place. So keep fighting, keep working towards better brain health, and never give up this life for anything. You're worthy, you're valued, you matter, and we love you. And the kids that shared their stories today, the 2 on the microphone and the folks that came up afterwards, there was at least 20 to 30 kids that came up afterwards and shared their story and what they're going through. And they're going through a world of pain. And they need our help, and we're going to help them. We got them to help. I'll tell you one thing. The 2 young people who spoke on the microphone, they touched my heart. And I want to give a shout out to them right now. They shared their stories of terrible tragedy, and they're going to triumph over that tragedy. They're not going to take their lives. They're going to be here tomorrow. They're going to fight their pain, and I hope I can be a small part of that.
If you or someone you know needs help, I ask you to please contact the number shown on screen now, or call the anonymous tip line by going to the Farmington homepage, go to Students, then click on the Knights tip line.
Reporting for BKTV News, this is Richard Skinner and Caleb Truman.
If you or someone you know is in crisis or considering taking your own life, please call or text 988 or reach out to a counselor or social worker.
For this new year of BKTV, we want to bring you the biggest stories and why it matters.
We are calling it Stuff That Matters.
This live segment is all about local, national, and international news. We aim to tell you what is happening and give some context on it. We also try to offer some good news each time. Not all that is happening in the world is bad after all.
To start us off, we have the ongoing protest in Iran following the imprisonment and torture of Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old student who, in protest of the oppressive laws against women in Iran, showed a portion of her hair outside her hijab. For the last few decades, Iran has been under strict Sharia law, which forces women into being second-class citizens. The arrest and torture of Mahsa led to her death, which has sparked massive protests and calls for an end to the regime. The women of Iran and even around the world are cutting their hair in opposition to the strict laws and are working to end the oppression.
Our second story concerns Hurricane Ian. Ian made landfall in Florida on September 28th. The hurricane was classed as a Category 4 hurricane, meaning wind speeds in the range of 130 to 156 miles per hour. The hurricane has left thousands without homes. It destroyed entire cities. The death toll is now over 100. Our emergency crews are still searching and inspecting homes to find survivors. If you are interested in helping, there are several organizations working for relief. These include the American Red Cross, World Central Kitchen, and AmeriCares. The links to donate will be in the description below.
Finally, to end on a good note, do you remember back in the early 2010s when everyone was doing the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? Well, if you do, there's finally some great news about that study. The study that was partially paid for by the Ice Bucket Challenge has finally yielded results. They are officially testing a drug that could help slow ALS and are working towards a cause.
That's all we have for Stuff That Matters, but we have plenty more for this show. Our next segment is about our local hot dog cart and its plans for the future. Jace Dennison gives us some insight into the world of Red's hot dogs.
What's up, FHS? I'm Jace Dennison, reporting for BKTV News Live. Today, we're downtown on the set of Food Truck Friday to talk to a local entrepreneur, Brandon McGee.
I worked, pretty hard all my life and decided if I was going to work that hard, might as well be for myself. And I've always wanted to do food. My family's in the restaurant business most of my life. We owned restaurants when I was growing up, and it just kind of fit. I was working at Gilson Lee for 4.5 years, saved up a bunch of money, and bought my first cart and decided to give it a go, and been doing it for about 4 years now. Well, it wasn't hot dogs at first, but it was easy to get started that way. We actually sell lots of other different kinds of foods. We have sliders and bread bowls and all kinds of other things. We're actually opening our headquarters here about the end of October, and we'll be able to offer all those things at once. But off of one cart, we usually just stick to one item, and the hot dogs are the easiest thing to get going out there. Actually, right now we are in the middle of expansion. We have 2 carts out on the street, and we're building more of the kind that you see behind me. We are going to be building several of those models for camping trips, so local churches and groups of folks can rent them, or just families can rent them to take camping with them to lots of local areas to go camping around here. So that's a complete mobile kitchen, and we're going to be expanding into that side of the business. The 2 carts on the street will be in downtown Farmington, and we actually have one starting in Deloge next week. Over at Cricket Wireless, actually. We have a residency there. We'll be there every day of the week from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And once we get someone hired for over there, we'll be opening the building over here about mid-October to late October. We're going to be doing carry-out and delivery from that location down there next to Ron's Tire across from the Save-A-Lot. We're going to be open from Tuesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we're going to be offering carry-out and delivery from there. There'll also be like dining tables outside and things like that. It's going to be more of a kind of like the local Hunt's area diner that we have here, where you pull in and you take your order, or you order from inside your car, or you can order online and pull up, and we'll bring your food out to you and stuff like that. Or just like a Little Caesars, come in and carry out.
To check out Red's hot dogs, you can go to his website, the phone number, or stop into one of his many locations. Signing off for BKTV News, I'm Jace Dennison.
Red's Hot Dogs really is a Farmington institution. We're glad to see him prospering and expanding his business.
Our next segment is certainly an interesting one. Colin Roth and myself take us to see and learn about Miss Stroud's alpacas.
That's right. Now let's meet Rosie and Bucky.
Hi, this is Trent Galzinski reporting for BKTV News. A few alpacas that are not from around here have found their way to Farmington on Mrs. Stroud's farm, who will be explaining a little bit more about this unique animal.
I really love animals, and so I'd wanted one for a long time. I just think they're fun to watch, and they're pretty gentle, pretty docile. And I have a toddler, so I wanted something that would be safe around him. And I just like watching them walk around and just kind of mosey about and hang out. These alpacas are probably a little spoiled. I have like an area for them just to graze that I keep separate from my horse and my sheep. And then in the winter time, my barn has stalls in it, so I put them in every night when it's cold. And you, of course, have to make sure you have clean water for them, feed. I think probably one of the challenges would be veterinarians are not necessarily they don't know a lot about alpacas because not a lot of people have them. And so the ones that I bought, they're 6 or 7 years old. And so if they have any health problems, it's kind of to me, just doing the research online to try to figure out what's going on. It's just knowing the information and being able to take care of them properly. I actually bought mine out at the Farmington Regional Stockyards. They have an auction every month, and so they don't have them every month. I actually went to the auction for a year and a half waiting to get one, and I bid on a couple, but they were out of my price range, so it took about a year and a half of me going to that auction before I was able to get it. But if you're willing to spend more money, you can look up like registered alpaca breeders. You can get online and find like some registries and then find breeders, and you could buy straight from a breeder. Or you can also get on, like, Facebook has different groups where you could potentially buy from all over the United States with that. I really enjoy having them. I got them out at my son's birthday party and put alpaca party hats on them because they're just fun to watch and fun to look at. And my son, who's 2, he picks apples off of our apple tree every day when we do the chores, and he brings them out and tries to feed them apples, and they just like come up to him, and it's just fun to kind of watch.
This has been Colin Roth and Trent Gazinski reporting for BKTV. Well, that was an interesting look into the world of alpacas.
It certainly was, Trent. That's all we have for this show today. For BKTV, this has been Caden Foster
And Trent Gazinski. Be sure to check back next week for the next installation of BKTV Live.